Maximum News, I'm Max Derrat, that's Sybsidian. Breaking news right off the top, just a couple hours ago, right before we started recording this podcast. Apparently, there's a sequel to 2019's Call of Duty Modern Warfare coming out this year, as well as a sequel to Warzone, which came along with the original Call of Duty from 2019. I imagine it'll be called Warzone 2. This is all according to the official Call of Duty official Twitter account. On it, they say that COD 2022, like I said, is a sequel to Modern Warfare 2019. There will be a massive evolution of the Battle Royale, this is their words, with an all-new play space and new sandbox mode, and a new engine powering both the new game and Warzone. You know, I'm not a big fan of Call of Duty. I've played Warzone like twice with my girlfriend and her sister. It was okay, but you know, I don't really play Battle Royales that often. Cy, did you play any Warzone, or does this do anything for you?
No, I don't do. Isn't it first person?
Yeah, it's first person.
Yeah. I don't do any first person games. Like exclusive first person games. There are some games, like there are a handful of games that I can get into if they have like a third person like vehicle stuff. So that was my one saving grace in Cyberpunk, is that I ran around doing as much as I could whilst on a bike. Like everything I could possibly do, I was constantly on a bike, just constantly trying to do that. Every time I had to get off the bike was like, all right, I've got 20-30 minutes of play in me before I start to get sick. So
you have to complete the missions within that span of time and then hurry back to your bike so you can have a relaxing trip around Night City. I just figured I'd bring this up for the people in our audience who, inevitably some of you will play Call of Duty, and more power to you if you do. I mean, we're not particularly big fans of the company that produced that game, but hopefully things will start to look better now that it's been acquired by Microsoft, at least in the department of getting rid of people that abuse other people. Let's move from that first-person shooter over to another one. I want to talk a little bit about Battlefield 2042. I haven't talked about it that much, we have acknowledged the myriad of problems that the game has had, but I wanted to sort of bring you guys up to date regarding what's going on with the current state of Battlefield 2042 and an interesting new development that came out of it. So just a quick overview. The 24-hour peak on Steam for Battlefield 2042 for the last 24 hours since we're recording this on Friday, February 11th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for reference, Lost Ark just launched. Now, there was a delay in its official unveiling, a really bad one. They said they were going to release February 11th, and in most places in the world it was already February 12th before they managed to get their servers up and running. So kind of bad on them for that part. But yeah, no, it is. We're recording just after the game Lost Ark has gone live. It's an interesting game, and if you're interested in rolling on it, hop into our server.
Yeah, I want to get some more thoughts from you about that game, because I saw you playing it just briefly before we started the show.
But as far as and I bring this up because the Steam charts this morning is the Steam charts are very interesting right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What are the numbers in terms of concurrent players?
Right now, the number one game being played right now is Lost Ark.
Wow, great.
It peaked at 983,000, which was just shy of actually beating out Counter-Strike's all-time high this week of just under 1 million. So they're both neck and neck. But past that, as you were saying, there's no
that's nuts. 980, that's nearly 1 million.
Yeah. The game is launched to about 1 million players for sure. And over the next couple of, I suspect by tomorrow peak, it'll probably pass the that number. Which is great because this is good. But as far as what you were saying about that game, it's nowhere near what was its peak? Yeah, I can't even find it on the list.
So check this out. In terms of the all-time peak, this is considering all the days that Battlefield 2042 has been out. The all-time peak was just over 100,000. So in one day, Lost Ark got almost 10 times that amount. Whereas 2042 only got a 10.
Dozens of games got more than that.
Yeah.
By a long shot. Like it's kind of crazy right now. Like at their peak, they can't beat out Dying Light, which is currently running at, which is another game that just came out, which is currently running at 106,000. So, like, wow, guys, where's your game? Where is their A game? Like, seriously. Again, that's only Steam, but still.
But even so, even with a franchise that many people consider to be a staple of the first-person genre, like Battlefield, for it to be that low, and then take this into consideration, like how well the other Battlefield games that came prior to it are doing. So the 24-hour peak for Battlefield 2042, the last 24 hours, was about 4,000 people in total. The game that came out before it was Battlefield 5, a game that not a whole lot of people liked. You know, if you recall, there was a lot of controversy regarding how that game sort of messed with the Battlefield formula, how like certain developers said, hey, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Well, check this out. For the last 24 hours, I can't believe this is real. For the last 24 hours, Battlefield 5's peak player number was 31,000. That's roughly 8 times 2042's 24-hour peak. And then Battlefield 1 before that, you know, the Battlefield that took place from World War I, their 24-hour peak was 11,000. So, yeah, it's
not good when you have a major title like that does drop on Steam, and yet somehow can't drum up, you know, I mean, for a long time it hasn't been able to drum up. When was it officially released?
2042?
No, 5.
Oh, I think it was like 4 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago?
Are you sure?
I think so.
I think it only came onto Steam in 2020.
Oh, it wasn't released on Steam right away?
Maybe that's the cause. Well, okay, so anyways, 42, which is obviously this is a more recent one, but just generally overall, it's like neither of these games have performed well at all. Like at all. Like their peak players in November was 100,590. It's like there are half a dozen games that do better than that. There's a game, I can't remember what it's called, but it's created by one guy, and I believe it broke 500,000 the other day. Peak players on Steam. So again, when you're being left in the dust as a major company that can't seem to rustle up more than 100,000 peak players on a major release day, like 100,000 is your cap. This is a serious problem for Activision. Like Activision I think they're losing a lot of momentum. I think they're starting to belly out, and frankly, I'm kind of glad because again, they're not going to change until their lifeblood is threatened, right? They're not going to improve. They're not going to stop pulling the dirty microtransaction games. There's still so many people who don't engage with like the stories, the activities. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was saying that it's like gaming is getting so expensive, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I just can't afford to keep my roster up in FIFA. And I'm like, what games do you play? And he listed off FIFA and Battlefield as like the two top games. And I'm like, how many other people do you think play these games? Like, do you think these are the top rated games in the world? He's like, yeah. Everybody plays FIFA. And I'm like, no, they don't. Not anymore. There's a lot of these gamers, a lot of EA gamers are people who have been stuck with EA for literally a decade now.
Yeah.
Who like that's the extent of their knowledge in the gaming universe, right? They know nothing about any of they know nothing about Among Us, right? Mm-hmm. This amazingly popular game that hundreds and thousands and millions of people were playing during the worst of the lockdowns, and they can't be bothered to like spend 5 minutes to learn about these other games, these indie games coming from these indie studios. Because the only thing they played over the last 5 years or over the last 10 years has been FIFA and Battlefield, or Call of Duty, and that's it. That's their video game time, And to me, that's a little sad. I mean, it's sad whenever anybody limits themselves to that. And I'm not saying you have to go out there and forcibly play all of the new games, but most people have they've played at least a few games, even if they're free to play. Like Lost Ark, free to play right now. Check it out. It's interesting. It's fascinating. Might not be your cup of tea, and if it's not, that's totally fine. Yeah. If you don't want to support them, you're technically taking money away from Amazon when you play Lost Ark and you don't spend a dime on it. Technically, you're costing them money. So, you're not giving them cash just by playing the game. At the most, you're giving them some bragging numbers. That's it. But overall, it's there's all these games that come out. The one I was just talking about, the 500,000 players, when it's just a single developer making this game. All these other games that are out, that are created and run by small, tiny little studios. I played another one the other day that just came out. Bought it for $15. It's this great little indie game made by a friend of a friend. A developer friend of mine is friends with the developer, one of the developers that makes this game. And again, it's these guys are trying. These guys are really pushing the direction of new gaming. And then there's other people who are stuck on EA, and they think that EA is still the best people at making video games in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
And they're complaining that they can't afford to keep playing FIFA because it costs them an extra $2,000 a month just to play the damn game. It's
I got an idea. How about you stop playing it? But it's the only sports soccer game there is, and I mean, the only alternative is Konami.
And I do feel so sorry because I've talked the last couple of weeks about mech games. It's mech games. It's so sad that such a wonderful concept such as a mech game, and in this case, a soccer game, and I guess you could also say really the Battlefield franchise as well, because there's really only Battlefield and Call of Duty. If you want that big team fight thing, that's basically it, right? There's no other major titles that come out on a semi-yearly basis that compete with that. There's just those two giants, right?
Yeah, they monopolized it. Same thing with soccer.
Yeah. And it's the one IP that was pushing into that was Battlefront, and that got snatched up by EA too, and they've done. I've said this before. I think they intentionally sank that franchise. They intentionally made it so bad. Why? Because they didn't own it lock, stock, and barrel. They only owned it for at most 10 years.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to screw over their future competition to make sure that everybody just played and stayed and played Battlefield, then what was the best thing that they could have done? They tank
their competition.
Battlefront.
Yep.
Make it garbage. Make an entire generation be so upset with it that even if it's produced by a different company, most of the players won't engage.
Yep.
That's the evil that we talk about when I say EA is evil. That's what I mean. These people are genuinely scum.
You have to be really, really evil and really, really scummy to be worse than Activision Blizzard, and that's what EA is. They always find new ways to do it. Guys, if you happen to be a sports gamer, somebody plays FIFA, Madden, that sort of stuff, please expand your horizons. There's so many other great games that you can play that are where you're not having to spend, like you said, $2,000 a month just to update your roster and to play the game and then repurchase the game the next year. There's better bang for your buck. And we live in an era where there's a greater variety of games and a greater variety of entertainment just in general. So please, but I somehow I think that message will fall on deaf ears, as it always has. Anyways, what I don't really think this. Oh yeah, there is the whole reason why I brought up Battlefield 2042 in the first place. obviously, the reason why fewer people are playing the game is because there's a lot of problems with the game. Yeah, you can find a whole bunch of compilation videos of problems that people have with the game. You know, you're flying in a jet into a building, doesn't blow up. You aim at a person and the bullets are clearly hitting them, but it's not doing any damage, amongst like 100 other bugs that have yet to be fixed. Apparently, people feel like their money was stolen from them because of how unfinished the game was. And there's this one guy on change.org who felt the need to make a petition asking EA to get refunds for everybody that wants it. And at the moment, I think the petition went up like less than a week ago. At the moment, it has over 164,000 signatures. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that sort of pressure and
it won't.
I know. But
it won't. They were voted the worst company in the world twice
in a row.
Like not in a row. I think it was just 2 times, just generally. And it's like they're competing with companies that make landmines that specifically target their kill radius for children. Okay, so this is the company that won out being worst company in the world over top of companies that design their products to kill children.
Yep.
And somehow they looked at that and said, look at our crazy, silly fans voting for this. Isn't that so funny? And it wasn't until 5 years later that the head of the studio said, maybe these people are actually voting this way because they actually feel that way. 5 years! It took them 5 years to get through the thick skulls!
Yeah.
So I've got to say, they're just so bad.
Yeah.
Like, they're so bad.
And that's why, you know, even though you say, and I tend to agree with you, that this petition won't do anything, I still want to encourage stuff like this to happen, including the people who are ratioing the Battlefield Twitter online. Like, did you see on Twitter, the Battlefield guys put out this announcement like, hey, play this weekend and you can get our tactical beanie epic headgear. And like it has like 2,000 likes and then 2,500 comments, so they got ratioed to crap. I want more stuff like that to happen because the more pressure that gamers continue to put on EA and DICE, it means that EA won't take this particular fan base for granted, like they take all the sports gamers who they can always rely upon to get money back on their investment, right? So please, like, even though like there is stuff like the end user license agreement that may protect EA from any class action lawsuits, which this petition seeks to create, don't let up. Just keep having stuff like this happen. Keep spreading the word at how much EA and DICE are continuing to screw over gamers. And please, save the Battlefield franchise. Even though I never really engaged with it, I think the most I ever engaged with it was like Battlefield 1, like a few matches of that, which it was good, but it's just not my type of game. I do feel for a lot of people who've grown up with that franchise and love it to death, so I don't want it to die out, sort of like what seems to be happening with Battlefront at the moment. Okay, well, let's just move beyond that to some actually potentially really, really good news. So you might remember back in September side, there was this C# developer from the Ukraine named Igor July. He hacked into GeForce Now's database. GeForce Now, they're owned by NVIDIA, the guys that make all the NVIDIA graphics cards. And after he opened up the database, Igor found a whole bunch of titles that would supposedly be showing up on NVIDIA's upcoming game streaming service. Several of the games that were on this list have been confirmed to be real since the leak. Crysis 4, for example, that was announced last month. Sniper Elite 5 was on the list. That was confirmed back in December. And, of course, the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Definitive Edition, which was released back in December. Now, the latest game on this list to be confirmed was the Chrono Cross remake. Chrono Cross being the sequel to Chrono Trigger, the one that released on the PlayStation 1. It's being remade for the Nintendo Switch. This was announced during the Nintendo Direct a few days ago. It was announced alongside games like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Nintendo Switch Sports, which is like the Switch's version of Wii Sports, essentially. Now, I'm bringing this up again because I want to talk about some of the other games that are rumored on this list and try to give people some hope, but also try to make their hopes a little bit more realistic. Because some people are saying that because Chrono Cross was announced, this definitively means that every other game on this list is real. In some respects, that looks to be the case for the majority of the games on the list. Like, for example, other games on the list include BioShock 4. It's in development. We basically know it's in development. It's just not confirmed yet. Resident Evil 4 Remake, we know that's happening. The Talos Principle 2, we know that's happening. But there are other games on this list where they are either been debunked or there's just no chance in hell that they're happening. For example, Modern Warfare 3 Remaster was on the list, but Activision confirmed that this was not in development. And another one was Titanfall 3. No chance in hell, if you know anything about Titanfall, is that real. But the reason why those things aren't real, but other things might be real. In case you guys don't remember, back when this leak came out, the response that was given is that some of these titles on here are speculative titles. Mm-hmm. But given that, let's just engage in a little bit of fan speculation.
Some of them are also data entries for testing stuff, and that's what really came out with when this leak came out originally, is that there were a lot of items on this list that were like, these are things that were being worked on, and to kind of give you an example of like, well, how does this factor in? The Half-Life 3 had, and I think I'm getting this right, had 16 pitch alphas, or maybe not an alpha, but like a vertical slice alpha. So like a generalized conceptualized like concept. 16 of them over the number of years that we haven't gotten an update to Half-Life, before Alex came out. And that was, and you could find those in various places. The other thing that we had found fairly early on was before 76 became announced. Was announced, not became announced. English, my goodness. One of those things was that there was this concept of in that was actually ported in as a piece of DLC to Fallout 4, was Fallout 4 Together, and it was supposed to be an expansion for Fallout 4 in which you could play with 4 friends on a map and you could do stuff. That later got pushed by ZeniMax. ZeniMax later pushed the studios to actually create what we had in 76, and they did that in a hurry, and they did that without fixing any of the enormity of the problems that was there.
Mm-hmm. So, like, stuff. What you're suggesting is that stuff on this list could be like just based off of little bits of info that they have, speculating that they might come out, but they might evolve into other things.
Well, they may not evolve into other things. They may just be permanently like shelved. Right. And that's what I would say. That's what I say probably happened with Titanfall, is that somebody at Respawn started to work on it, or another studio started to work on the concept of the third game, but when it got shelved, that thing still stayed there. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's something that does frequently happen. So, yeah.
Okay, but let's just, because we need hope and we need happiness in this world, let's just speculate for a second that, let's just hypothesize that the majority of these games are real and that they are going to come out. I want to get, like, which one of these games that are on this list that you want the most. I want in particular to highlight what is probably the most eyebrow-raising game for most people on this list, which is a Final Fantasy IX remake. I played Final Fantasy IX for the very first time in the past year. If we got a remake of that game that wasn't like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where they sort of mess with the formula a little bit, but it's like you can go across the entire planet Gaia to all these different cities like you could in the original game, but just with updated graphics and fully like rendered 3D models and stuff. The promise of such a game is so epic in my mind that if they pulled it off, it could become one of my favorite games of all time. Because Final Fantasy IX, I've played a few Final Fantasies right now. It is my favorite because the story is wonderful, the characters are wonderful, and if we can go traversing through Gaia in an RPG, kicking ass, and then sticking it to Garland at the very end of the game, if they do it correctly, I think it could be one of the greatest things ever. What do you think, Seb? Did you ever play 9?
A little bit.
Yeah. What do you think about that concept?
Like, sure. I mean, again, it's like I would like I kind of want them to focus on new stories, frankly.
Sure.
Like replaying some of those old ones are great, but I worry that they like take away from the future games that they could make with new storylines, because that's one of the nice things about it, is that the worlds aren't necessarily connected, but they are, and they are very different, each of them. And I did like the difference of playing one story to the next, to the next, to the next. And it was something that was kind of nice. And I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more of. And that's kind of what I hope. I like, especially when we look at the Final Fantasy VII Remake, the amount of time
and effort
that has been put into that.
Yeah.
Like, they could have had another, I mean, they split it into 2, right? So it's like literally we could have had 2 other Final Fantasy games come out.
Hold on a second, because it's remake and then integrate, which focuses on 2 optional characters from the first game, and then considering where the remake stopped, it's looking like we're probably going to have at least 3, maybe 4 more games to follow, right? Which is ridiculous.
That's probably, actually, you're right. We're probably going to get 4 of them.
Yeah.
Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. Part 4 comes out in 2035.
Yeah.
Like that's this, and by that point they're gonna be like, yeah, we're looking at remaking Part 1 so that it matches up with the technology in Part 4. At some point we're gonna get that, and you just and that's the thing that I'm afraid of, right? So yeah. No, I think overall I'm less interested in remakes. I become more and more less interested in remakes the more and more of them come out, because like we get this like hey, they're remaking Last of Us 1, and then they're going to remake Last of Us 2, and then they're going to go back and remake Last of Us 1 again. And then they're going to do Last of Us 2 again. And, you know, because again, I think part of it, boils down to is that a lot of like the really good writers that a lot of these companies had, a lot of those really good writers who wrote absolutely mind-blowing stories. And we were just talking about this in the Discord, literally right before the podcast. Those stories just aren't there anymore. You know, you get these idiots at these companies who are like, I'm going to write a story about revenge. It's going to be a story where the person goes out to get revenge, and then they realize that revenge is bad, but then, you know, they don't really get it, and it's too late for them to change. It's like, congratulations. I know like 30,000 different stories that have that exact plot line. And you've provided absolutely nothing to this world. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And nothing in your blithering madness ravings made any sense, and may God have mercy on our souls.
Yeah. In an ideal world, I would like for both, because I did a video relatively recently on my channel where I actually argue for the need for remakes and remasters in order for games with outdated mechanics and graphics to be playable in the modern day. But I did place a caveat that I don't want it to be at the expense of new and original titles. So hopefully moving into the future, even though, as you just explained, it doesn't seem likely, but hopefully we can get stuff like a Final Fantasy IX remake alongside Final Fantasy 16, 17, 18, yada, 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 and maybe new games. But aside from the remake question, I want to get your honest opinion. Do any of these games, these possible games, stand out to you as ones that you would really want to play?
It's like looking at the list.
There's Kingdom Hearts 4, Dragon's Dogma.
Monster Hunter 6 would be interesting.
Yeah.
I would like that. That would be interesting. XCOM 3. XCOM 3 is looking, that would look really, really good. Yeah, I really like that concept.
Yeah, Monster Hunter in particular is huge right now.
Dragon's Dogma 2 would be great, but
Yeah.
I honestly don't think that's coming out. In all honesty,
The first one didn't do that well, did it?
Well, it can't. So it suffers from the same thing that the Vampire the Masquerade had, and it's that it came out with it had spent so long in development that it came out with graphics that at release was less than what was
Expected.
the going norm. And because of the consoles, and this is my primary problem with consoles, the only ever thing that is touted as important and is encouraged for players to get into is graphic-based games. Like, it hasn't been until recently that we've seen Among Us and a bunch of these other games where graphics aren't the primary thing. Minecraft too, that kind of stuff. But up until just recently, if you were releasing a game that looked like garbage, that didn't look like retroized or stylized to be 16 or 32-bit kind of concepts, if you didn't do that, well, I mean, if you didn't have top quality, like, the magazines wouldn't cover you, the websites wouldn't talk about you. YouTubers were considered niche, crazy people if they encouraged you to play like these older style games, and that's primarily because of this combination and this partnership between major video game companies and the people who write for air quotes game journalism, right? Like, these companies had vested interests in keeping themselves paying and paid and busy with particular work, so they just did whatever they wanted to. And if they lied to you directly about the quality of a game, or if they tapped down a game or didn't let anybody write a report about it because it just wasn't the hip thing, and we've got to keep pushing this hip thing, and we've got to keep pushing it. That's the kind of stuff that we have right now. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping that we can
move beyond graphics as a necessity.
Move around it, because we're starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, now we're at like 4K super visual stuff. Can we please work on some AI? Like, my God,
Yeah.
Can we please have a game where the AI aren't just stupid? I would love to play an open world game in which the NPCs don't just stand around all day doing nothing. They're just waiting for you to show up. They and Bethesda's got the best mechanics for this so far. And really all we're seeing there is that they will walk over to a thing, cook some food, pick up a tool, sharpen it, and then resume their patrol again. And then they have a sleep schedule in there too. It's like, I would really love to see a world in which NPCs actually did something. Like, they were actually like you could come across soldiers raiding, or not soldiers, mercenaries, adventurers raiding tombs themselves. And you could actually show up, and it's not just a scripted event. It's like an actual thing that they do. You could turn the game on, and the game universe and the world would dynamically change just by the fact that it's on. And there has been games that have tried to do this. Peter Molyneux tried to do a lot of this stuff in the past, and he lied terribly about.
Do you remember Milo? the Kinect thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of problems with this technology, and the big problem with it is that there's very few companies that are pushing stuff into that. There's very few companies that are investing, tens of millions of dollars into that kind of technology, where they're all sitting around trying to get a 12K rock, and and then getting light shadows to like reflect off of it. Because what I want? I want a world that looks absolutely gorgeous, yet has absolutely nothing, no like actual meat there. It's just a facade. It's just a visual facade in which you're designed to like see one area once, take in an area for 30 seconds, move on to the next mission, and then that's it. It's like I hate games like that. I hate games like that because it's like there's nothing there. Right? The world is like, if you go and you do a mission, then you come back and you just sit there for an hour, it's like nothing changes. That world is completely empty. That fire that was raging, that fire is raging there now forever, and that one NPC is now running back and forth on fire for the eternity that the game is on. It's like, at some point, can we... And again, there's a lot of games that fail with this, and the issue has been that it's just never been like... Smart AI has never been something that we as gamers have really valued enough to vote with our dollars for, essentially. And part of that becomes the case that there fewer and fewer. There was fewer and fewer options where that was the focus of the AI. That was really an old gamer thing when people were creating like Descent. There was another game where you trained AI bugs, like little tiny bugs to react and learn, and how to overcome obstacles and work together and stuff like that. It's like, those games were really like niche back in the day, and they have become more niche. And unfortunately, because those were never evolved upon, the same basic AI is the same basic AI that you have today, and they're really frankly stupid. So
if the AI in the modern day is as good or worse than the AI that we got in a game like Fear, which I hold as sort of like the gold standard of AI reacting to your actions, there's something seriously wrong. And like you said, I hope that with the release and embrace of games like Undertale, which I recently finished, or Among Us, like you said, that there'll be more of a move towards games that offer memorable experiences based on immersion, gameplay, AI interaction, rather than graphics. Because what comes to mind is the Matrix Awakens demo. That was gorgeous, but you saw people posting about how gorgeous it looks on Twitter for like a week, and then people mostly forgot about it. They're not playing it anymore, even though it wasn't a game in the first place, but you know what I mean. All right. Let's move beyond that. Although I will say, if Destroy All Humans 3 is real and it comes out and it's actually good, I'd be happy to play that very much. I'd love to see an 8K looking crypto face. Come on, that'd be cool.
Right.
So what do we have up next? Oh yeah, Elden Ring. Coming out in 2 weeks. I'm very excited about it. Going to be doing videos on my channel for it.
Big notice, because there's some people who are reaching for the pause or the X button. Don't turn us off. We're not going to spoil anything.
Oh, of course not.
And this is part of this is most of the news that we have about this. So a bunch of people got access to the game. They played 8 hours. There's a lot of reviews out there showcasing and talking a lot about stuff, including a lot of game journalists who are spoiling major story plot points in tweet headlines, or on their stupid titles for their articles. It's like, could you please stop doing this, journalists? You're not cool or edgy when you spoil the main plot of these games. So just a heads up, if you've been waiting for Elden Ring, you might want to just turn off your social media for the next couple of weeks. Don't click on YouTube articles about it, because again, there's a lot of people that are spoiling major things, from locations to boss fights to and it's so funny. You see these articles. I didn't spoil anything. You had three full boss fight walkthroughs, an area in which you included a whole bunch of dialogue that was from arguably like 6 to 7 hours into the game. Yeah, that's called a spoiler, numbnuts. Like, seriously.
They know what they're doing.
Stop it. Yeah. Oh God, it's so aggravating that they do this constantly. And again, I'm not calling anybody out in, specifically, because I don't want to be, argue. I don't want anybody to come after me for bullying, air quotes. I'm not bullying. I'm asking for common courtesy. You don't talk about you don't come out after having watched spoilers for Soylent Green, the movie with the guy who played Moses. What's his name?
Charlton Heston. Yeah.
Soylent Green. You don't start your review the week Soylent Green comes out going, wow, it's amazing about this movie. And again, spoilers for Soylent Green if you've never seen it. It's about people eating people. Oh my goodness. This is crazy. And that's your headline. You don't do that. There's a common courtesy. You don't walk out of a movie theater and see people in line for the next screening. You watch the first screening and go, wow, I can't believe that this happened. Isn't this crazy? Imagine this guy does this right at the end of the movie, and it turns out blankety blank. And it's like, well, you want to start, like, you want to get punched. Like, that's a good way to do it.
By the way, in case you guys didn't know, Moses parts the Red Sea and the Jews cross over to the other side. Spoiler alert.
Oh, spoiler alert for what was the movie called?
The Ten Commandments.
Yeah. Charlton Heston, man. What a crazy good actor way back in the day.
He was a manly dude, man.
Man, those a lot of people don't realize those scenes were shot in warehouses in 80, 90 degree weather that didn't have air conditioning.
Yeah. Like,
good Lord. Oh my goodness. That's insane. Under lights too. So anyways, we should have a good conversation about cinematography sometime.
Sure.
So I got some crazy stories. Anyways, so the stuff. Just beware. News is going to start peaking about this. We're going to start getting more story stuff. A lot of the questions really has been, well, what's the story going to be like? What's the main things about the story? And we're going to see a lot of that coming out over the next week or two here. Mm-hmm. So game comes out in a few weeks. Might want to put some ear blinders on and cross your fingers that you don't get everything ruined for you.
Yeah, just do the muted word function on Twitter. That's what I do whenever a big movie or game is coming out.
Well, that's the thing is sometimes they're starting. So you might be able to mute Elden Ring just in general, but it's like they're also starting with other spoilers, names of characters and names of locations that, again, it's like once you know about it, it's like, it's like describing, here's another one that everybody spoils, right? The Sixth Sense, right?
Oh, Sixth Sense. Don't say what the ending is for that one.
Really?
Yeah. Because, okay, it's not like other movie reveals. That the entire brilliance of that movie hinges on the ending. And
okay, well, all right. Let's go with an easier one. All right, so another one that everybody knows. Spoiler alert for the second movie of the original Star Wars trilogy.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
It would be like starting a conversation about this Darth Vader guy who's actually the main protagonist's father in the story.
Yeah.
That is a total surprise that happens in Act 2 of the second movie. It's that's what they're doing with their damn titles. It's like so again, it's people being absolute garbage. Just and they're saying, oh, that's not a spoiler. I mean, it's a spoiler if you knowing and playing it. Yes, that's a spoiler. So yeah, very angry about it. I can't I don't know if you've noticed. I'm very annoyed with this.
Hey man, it pisses me off too. It pissed me off when I learned about something that happens to a certain character in The Force Awakens. whatever you think about the overall state of that movie, like before I saw it, I was quite disappointed.
Or how half the movie trailers are made these days. You watch a movie trailer for some movies, I swear they put in the best joke, they put in all of the biggest punchlines, the biggest spin or curve or twists in the movie, and then they also like put in a scene from the ending of the movie. It's like, thanks guys, you've ruined the entire movie in your own trailer. Wow.
Yeah. That's when they're desperate and they know the movie sucks. They just put all the good stuff in it. So, anyways, was that all you wanted to bring up in regards to Elden Ring? Just a spoiler alert?
Yeah. Just spoiler alert. Of course, you're going to be playing it. Ash is going to be playing it. So we'll have some info on that coming out when it comes out.
Hell yeah. All right. So, we're almost at the 50-minute mark, but I still want to get some decent discussion on Baldur's Gate and Lost Ark from you, Sib. So what's going on with those?
Baldur's Gate is amazing. I'm going to bring up some stats here.
Okay.
No. Don't play music from the game. No. Oh my goodness. So this is I've talked about this before. But in the original Divinity Original Sin 2, which is a weird way to say it, in Divinity Original Sin 2, they had 22 combat encounters, and in Baldur's Gate 3, up to this point, they've had over 80 of them.
Whoa.
The number of English dialogue lines that were recorded in Baldur's Gate versus Divinity Original Sin 2, 17,600 in DOS 2. In Baldur's Gate, again, up to the last patch, 46,000. So it went from 17,500 to 46,000. Number of characters in DOS Early Access was 142. In Baldur's Gate, they're up to 596. And the number of spells and actions that you can perform in DOS was 69. That is up to 146 in Baldur's Gate, not counting separate spell effects. So casting a particular spell that weakens charisma versus weakening strength, or buffing strength versus buffing something else within the same spell. That's not counting that. And there's a lot of those spells where there's differences. There's a fireball and that you can tweak and change with various effects in the game. So what that is illustrating is that Baldur's Gate is not close to its full release. We're not getting it in the spring. I thought there might be a chance that we're getting it in the spring. Definitely not getting it in the spring, because they are announcing patch 7. Patch 7 is coming out. They will have a Live from Hell, which will probably restream. I believe it's coming out on Tuesday. The countdown timer is already up, and when we recorded this, we were currently sitting at 3 days, 15 hours, and 28 minutes. So you can, obviously, we're recording this the day of, so it's going to be at least probably around 12 hours-ish or a little less, so you can take off that once this video goes live. So yeah, that puts this, this is going to be the 5th panel from Hell, 7th major patch, and again, this is just what they're doing in the early access. And again, there's a lot of people. I was talking to some people in the community. They've been a little worried about. They've been a little worried about watching this or playing too much of the game, because they don't want to get sick of the game before it actually comes out. Yeah. So that's totally understandable. But definitely tune into this stuff, especially if you're interested in Baldur's Gate, because what you're seeing is the evolution of how they're responding to feedback, of how they're responding to player requests, of how they're dealing with interaction amongst the players, and just generally, this is really, really cool to see how they're morphing the game's experience and morphing the experience overall, and how they're making the game and the universe just better at large. And this is something that I think I'm really excited to see, and I've been really excited to watch this. I have not gone like deep in, like burned like 100 hours into the early access at any point on an individual patch. Now there has been like I play through a bulk of the patch each time, trying out little different things. Sometimes it's only about 8 hours. Sometimes it's 15, 20. I think one of the longest runs I did was about 30 hours. When it came out. And I mean, this is an enormous amount of content for the game. So really good to see this, because this game is one of the best hopes I personally have for the gaming industry, primarily because they listen. They respond to feedback. This isn't an early access where they don't care. They just want your money. And it's like, whatever. It's not that. They've been moving away from that, and they've been moving towards improving the game in as many ways as they can possibly improve them, and they make players happy when they do this. And I am super impressed with this, and I'm looking forward to what they have to offer. I'm hoping for a new class. Might not get it. Might mostly be about crafting. That kind of stuff, because I know that they have stated that they wanted to get crafting out into the early access because they need a lot of feedback on it. So crafting, I suspect, probably the next thing we'll see. Mm-hmm. They'll probably have a brand new UI for it, probably have a brand new way of dealing with crafting. Really excited to see that. And again, they've stated a couple of times that when they put out these major patches, that's only about 10 to 20% of what you get in that patch is what they've been working on for the whole game. So you can be fairly sure that the experience that you're having is going to be like, if you see them come out with a major patch and you're like, wow, this is a lot of content added, and the first act is really, really deep and really, really involved, you can at this point, you can rest pretty easy. Again, I don't take anybody for faith, don't take anybody's promise 100%, but you can look at this and you can say, if they're doing this for the main thing, and if they're assuring us that this isn't all of their work, they're not investing all of their energy into just the first act, and that they're going to have these 4 to 5 acts. They usually do it in 5.5 acts. If they're doing that, we're going to have a hell of a game once this comes out. Yeah. And the story and some of the surprises and some of the things that have come out in this, they have really great writers. A call back to earlier in the show where we talked about bad writers. These guys have some really great actors that are just writers that are just phenomenally writing, and then the actors that are phenomenally acting out this stuff. It's phenomenal, and it's getting better and better and better and better. One of the things that I didn't get until one of my last playthroughs was the sandwich making scene between Shadowheart and my main character. I was never able to get it in the previous times that I played because Shadowheart was such a bee. She was constantly angry at everything I did, and I'm like, I just want you to love me. I just want us to have special time. I'm just like, and so finally I was able to do that. And I got to say that there's going to be like a whole bunch of other romanceable characters, but Shadowheart's, I mean, she's got a rough exterior, but they've actually tweaked a lot of that in the game. She's now, she's more smarmy and snarky than she is walking on broken glass. So yeah, great. Overall, I'm looking forward. I'm really looking forward to, really looking forward to working to seeing where that romance leads, because I know that's probably going to be like the best like roller coaster romance in the game so far. So yeah,
what's her name again?
Shadowheart.
Yeah, now that he can romance Shadowheart, he's gotten his money back.
She's schmarmy. She's very schmarmy.
Yeah.
So she's become a little bit more schmarmy. I think I know where the plot is going with that one, and so I'm very excited to follow that through. But yeah, that's something to look forward to. And again, it's a reminder that really good games are coming out from some creators, some developers, and some studios are still doing their best when it comes to making games that don't bow to outside pressure that just focus on creating good story for good story's sakes.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of
I
good
gotta
value,
say that, yeah, and I gotta say Larian is just blowing it out of the water. I don't trust them like 100% as far as like, you know, everything, because I don't trust anybody at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that out of all of the major studios that are working on AAA releases, I think these guys are ones that you trust, and tune in, watch their panel from hell. We'll be restreaming it here, most likely, unless emergency happens. But yeah, check it out, because it's going to be good, and I'm excited.
Nice. And then, do you want to just drop one quick thing on Lost Ark? Apparently, it's inspired by Berserk.
Yeah, we talked about it. Oh yeah, I forgot how much we talked about it before the show started versus now. So Lost Ark is, again, this is a game that has released and has gone up in active users in every region that they've unlocked at. And it's not just they're going up by account creations, but generally active users. The game is really good. Just like, you know, I haven't even like gotten only to like level 30 something. That's halfway. I have to say the story is amazing. There's a castle siege scene that will blow your socks off. And again, not a perfect game, but as far as like a D&D or not D&D, Diablo, for a Diablo hack and slash game, it's pretty darn good. It's pretty darn amazing, and it's cool to see again how this studio is. They've admitted when they were wrong. They've admitted when they've screwed things up, and they've gone out of their way to make the game better in every way, shape, and form. So
wonderful. Yeah. I gotta look up those. Well, maybe I shouldn't look up the cutscenes in case it spoils like late game stuff. But because like right before we started recording, I was watching Cy play a little bit of Lost Ark, and he was in the scene that kind of reminded me of something from Berserk. I won't say what it is, just in case you guys want to check it out and not have it spoiled. But it's making me want to check it out even more because I love the Berserk manga. All right, wow, we're almost going to be going for a full hour. That's probably one of the longest podcasts that we ever done, and I think I originally thought that we weren't going to be able to fill up that much time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Maximum News for February 11th. Listen, if you like this particular episode of the show, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you have any criticism or anything that we said that you want to voice your agreement with. And of course, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because when you do all those things, like, comment, subscribe, it not only tells the YouTube algorithm that the content, like this particular video, is worth watching, but it tells the algorithm that all the other videos on this channel are worth watching. It'll pass it around to people's recommended feeds, and we can continue to bring honest and no BS news coverage from the world of gaming for you guys, which is, talking about gaming journalism just before, it's kind of hard to come across, right? I want to thank Syb, as always, for providing his lovely insight into these stories and everything else. Syb, do you want to just tell people very quickly about the other main channel?
Yeah, check out the main channel at Triple S League. We have got some good content coming about Dying Light. Ash has been working on a lot of that, and we have a big thing coming out sometime soon here. So yeah, we'll announce that at some point right away. It's getting closer and closer to being finalized. We're so excited, and we can't wait for that. And yeah.
Syb's going to be the new pope. And then you can find me at my personal channel, Max Derrat. I'll put a link to that and the main Triple S League channel in the description box below. And make sure, you want to go over to my channel, because we were just talking about Elden Ring. I definitely will be doing coverage of that game when it comes out in a couple of weeks. Thanks, guys. And until we do this again next week, I want to remind you, as always and as per usual, stay yellow.
Goodbye.